Christian Saving. He's the Deutsche Bank Chief Executive Officer. Christian, as always, thank you so much for coming on. It's a bit of a strange week because a lot of the focus is on the, of course, atrocities, the human loss of life between Israel and Hamas. But the focus here is on growth, on whether we have more inflation. So how do geopolitics going forward come into your thinking of where the world is headed?
Oh, first of all, thank you for having me. Look, I think we are living in a time since the war in the Ukraine, since the start of the war in the Ukraine, where geopolitics have actually and are leading the economy. So it's kind of exactly the other way around, like we used to know it from the last 10 or 20 years. And as a bank and as all participants in the economy, you really need to watch out carefully. I do believe that last week's events, the horrific events which we have all seen, did not really have a material impact yet on the economy. But this is exactly the dangerous part, because it only needs one or another event and you see actually a huge or a bigger impact on the markets. What does it mean? We need to stay vigilant. We need to stay diligent. I think our clients really need the advice to risk manage their positions, and that's where we are here and why we are there for our clients. And that's actually the major discussions here in Marrakesh. What is the potential downside? How do we actually safeguard our clients? How do we risk manage the positions?
Christian, we understand that certain banks have actually limited travel for their employees in the Middle East. Are you going to take similar steps?
No, not for the time being, because I think we have obviously done all the measures which we need to do for our people in Israel. We are watching the situation very carefully. On the other hand, I also don't want to be now in a position where we are simply issuing travel warnings across the region, because sometimes I think that rhetorics and communication can make a situation even worse. And that's what we should not do. We should be balanced. We should watch it. We should risk manage it. That's what we are doing.
And as you say, the markets for the moment haven't really focused on it. But could it change the dynamic in terms of inflation and therefore when we'll see peak interest rates?
Look, a lot of focus is obviously now from this event, which we have seen last weekend, on oil price. Oil price has always an impact on inflation. But even outside and aside of the awful events from last weekend, I think we see a stubbornly high core inflation. The markets were somewhat surprised yesterday with the US numbers. And I do believe that overall we see that interest rates will stay higher for longer. Whether we see another step or not, to be honest, very, very hard to tell. I think it's not completely unthinkable that there is another increase also on the Fed side. But overall, we as Deutsche Bank, we are clearly believing that the interest rates which we see right now will be there for longer. Yeah. And again, that is something where our clients need to position for themselves. And that will obviously have an impact also on the economic development next year and in 2025.
There's a lot of concern about the German economy and actually where it's headed. Do you see any stress or any points that we should be careful about amongst your clients in Germany?
Yeah, I'm glad that you're asking me, because there is a lot of discussion, as you said, Germany is a segment of Europe. By the way, I don't think that Germany is a segment of Europe, but Germany needs some structural reforms, and that needs to happen now, because Germany obviously benefited from our exports to China. Germany benefited from low energy prices. Germany benefited from low interest rates. All that changed, and we need to get adjusted to that. But it also means we need structural reforms with regard to energy prices, with regard to infrastructure, immigration, and so on. If we do this, and this is what we jointly have to push for, the economy, but also the government, if we do this, I think Germany actually will see growth again, potentially not the number which we all wish in 2024, but from 2025. With regard to the economy in itself and the resiliency of our corporates, I'm actually seeing a picture which does not worry me. Okay. I think there is a lot of resiliency in the portfolio. But again, the real issue is the look forward, and therefore structural reforms are urgently needed now. But
Christian, given the cost of credit, how much do you worry about commercial real estate, which is the one thing that most investors worry about, of which you have a large chunk in Germany of?
Well, certainly it's an asset class which deserves monitoring. But again, fortunately from a Deutsche Bank point of view, I think our portfolio is is very much contained. We have reported about that. I do think that commercial real estate, in light of the higher interest rates for longer, but also all the developments which we have seen from COVID on with work from home, is an asset class which will actually go through a more difficult timing for the next couple of years. But it all depends on your underwriting principles, and there I feel very comfortable with that, what we have done.
Overall, we've seen a lot of volatility in the markets, and some have been on the right side, some have been on the wrong side of bets. I know your trading revenue declined in the third quarter. What have you seen since?
Well, I cannot yet comment on the third quarter, but overall, to be honest, I'm very happy also with the trading business overall in Deutsche Bank and what Ram and Fabrizio have established over the last 4 years. I think we have come to a place that, in particular, in certain markets, in particular in the European markets, we have a market-leading trading business. And if you are market-leading, then the stability is always higher than if you are not market-leading. This is exactly what we wanted to achieve, and we achieved it. I think the overall goal of Deutsche Bank, and this is what we established, is that we are less dependent on the investment banking. And in this regard, we significantly strengthened our corporate bank, our private bank, the asset management, and we did investments, and we just closed it this morning, the Numis investment, where we want to strengthen the capital light business and the advisory business within the investment bank, so that the investment bank in itself gets even more diversified. That's what we achieved, and this makes me happy.
And so, Christian, what comes next? Again, this is when you look at revenue-generating businesses after the acquisition at Numis, which was almost a watershed moment, right, after the difficulties of restructuring the bank. Is there anything else that you want to grow in or even buy?
No, there is, with regard to that, look, we are obviously always looking at the market, but I think the main focus this bank has is profitable growth by itself. And I think we have seen a good momentum, in particular in the stable business over the last 2 years. Of course, the net interest income helped, but if you really see the underlying mandates we have in the corporate bank, but also in the private bank, then I can really see this bank is on a growth path. We need to do it in a very disciplined way. We cannot let our eyes off the costs. And we need to do it in the environment which we just discussed, with strong risk management. But I do believe that Deutsche Bank is there where we want it to be, on a sustainable growth path. If we stay disciplined on costs and risk, I'm actually very confident about our future.
But what's your biggest concern in terms of outside shock that could come?
Look, it's those concerns, Francis, which are, to be honest, hard to expect and hard to forecast. Like, to be very honest, last week's events were not on our radar screen. For that, you need to be prepared, and therefore I'm always telling that in a world where geopolitics are leading the economy, you need to be extra vigilant on your risk management. We have done that, and therefore we have not suffered from all these items. But of course, if there is a further escalation in the Middle East, then we may face a different picture. And therefore, risk management monitoring is something which is on the top priority of Deutsche Bank for the time being.
Christian, thank you so much for your time today. That was, of course, Christian Sewing, the Deutsche Bank Chief Executive Officer.